The weekend is at hand, and that can mean just one thing. Invisible Walls is live on GameTrailers.com, bringing you episode 178. The crew is back from Tokyo Game Show. Definitely going to go in depth about that. And I also have to add that today's episode is 100% beer-free. Typically, beer-free, not a good thing. Today, still not a good thing. Marcus is
it depends on your taste, possibly.
Marcus is out. He's had some car troubles. Godspeed to you, Marcus Beer. Hopefully you get that thing fixed. He could not make it in to record today. But we do have a good crew of folks to discuss TGS and many other things with you. You already heard from Ryan Stevens.
That's me.
Patrick Morales is here.
Hi, everybody.
And Justin Spear.
What's up?
So we're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about some big news stories, lots of big development announcements this week, a lot of big debuts this week. Without further ado, let's get straight to it.
I'd arrived in Sao Paulo a few weeks before.
I can get you work, Max. Work that only a guy like you can do.
All right, first off, we're going to talk about, I think we consider this a huge game debut, Max Payne 3, shown for the very first time over the last week. The first trailer, apparently made from all in-game footage. What'd you guys think of the trailer? Justin hasn't seen it.
Yeah, I actually haven't seen it either because I was in Tokyo at the time. Could you paint a picture of what it was exactly?
Well, I guess to run through it real quickly, the game takes place in Brazil, in South America. Looks like he gets hooked up with some kind of a drug cartel or something like that. It also appears as if he's trying to leave his old life behind. Somehow he gets involved with this shady group. It looks like they're asking him to sort of reprise his role as a badass.
Did they also ask him to shave off his head?
He does shave his head in the trailer and shaves all his hair off.
Yeah.
Not the whole head.
I need you to shave off your head.
I want a close cut.
So he shaves his hair off in the trailer. They don't show a lot of the slow-mo that you would expect because everyone's kind of hoping, I don't know if they're hoping, but that's sort of what it built its name on. Is a slow-mo gunplay. They don't show a whole lot of it.
What they call it.
Yeah, bullet time.
It's been, like 8 years?
Yeah.
Maybe they'll come up with a new gimmick.
Yeah. I mean there is a little shot of it in
maybe
there.
Maybe now it'll go really fast.
We've had gravity guns since then.
Yeah.
Regenerating health.
You need to shave your head before the stubble grows to maintain your...
to make sure the engine doesn't bog down.
It'd be actually a good thing to do during like the loading screens or something.
Well, you're reloading. Like, shit.
Well, it's not made with the Unreal Engine, so hair shouldn't be too big of a problem.
Are they going to use, whatchamacallit again? Was it Euphoria?
They don't state what the engine is, but it looks like the same engine to me. It looks good, but it's not like next level looks good. What do you think of it, Ryan?
I was a little underwhelmed. I mean, it's for a debut, it's kind of okay, but I don't think the Max Payne name doesn't quite have the weight it used to have as well.
I mean, did it ever really have that much weight? I mean, it did pretty well.
The first one was really popular, and I know there's a pretty devout following for number 2, even though I wasn't really that big of a fan. I don't know. I guess they were, I don't know, it feels like they're kind of just resting on name recognition a bit. I mean, it's still an okay trailer. I don't think it's one of the top 100 trailers of all time. Watch now. But, I don't know, little lackluster, but nothing particularly bad, kind of just ho-hum.
It looks like
this game with shooting in it.
Yeah, there's definitely shooting. It looks like it's a little more like a typical game now. I always felt like the Max Payne games had almost this unique sense of atmosphere about them, and almost when I played it was almost like a sense of foreboding, but I didn't really get that vibe from this trailer.
I think this one's a little more gritty than maybe kind of like cop psychological.
Does it kind of have a similar feel to what they did with Splinter Cell, and eventually like the guy's bald and he's in jail and he stopped caring, or he's driving from a plane, you're like, what's happening with these?
It is a little bit like
they're just
that.
Like, we need a new direction. I guess baldness.
Well,
still with the shooting, but
well, I'm curious with
more drugs.
With them painting Brazil as such like the locale. It's Sao Paulo, right? It's not Rio.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious if Rockstar is going to try to make open world game number 4. I mean, LA Noire, you could argue one way or another, but it did have a kind of a go anywhere feel. I'm kind of curious if they're going to kind of just take that approach and put that on basically all of their content now. I mean, even what's it, Midnight Club?
Yeah.
Even Midnight Club LA was kind of like an open world racer.
But do you still want to go anywhere if you can't do anything?
That's really good. Yeah. You should copyright that.
It's LA Noire. Yeah.
That was LA Noire, pretty much in a nutshell. Yeah, I mean, I think this game looks like it's going to have a lot more set piece moments in it, which seems like every modern game has those at this point. You know, over the top action, more like an action movie than an action game, if that makes any sense. But yeah, I would say overall the trailer is a little underwhelming. It wasn't like there was any huge reveal in it or anything that's going to really pique people's interest to get them interested. And truth be told, a lot of people who are probably watching the show or listening to the show may have never even played a Max Payne game. I mean, it's been that long since they've been out. So for anyone who's come to our hobby in the last half decade probably hasn't even played Max Payne. So I don't know if there's a whole lot of cachet there for the franchise. So maybe in that sense it's smart that they're kind of rebranding it and they're assuming a lot of people don't know about it or have forgotten about it. But I wouldn't say it was an especially auspicious debut for the game.
You know, one good way to make people remember about Max Payne? Have the next game use LA Noire technology and use the Max Payne 1 face.
Yeah. The torpedo that sunk the Cheonan and took the lives of 46 South Korean sailors was fired by a North Korean submarine.
So the next big story from the last week is Homefront 2. First Homefront, not a very good game. Sold through the roof. I think we all knew that something had to give with that franchise.
THQ shut down the developer. You sold 1 million units. You're fired.
Bye-bye.
Good job.
Yeah, probably the right move because the game wasn't all that great. But when you sell that many units, someone's going to try to scoop it up, and that's essentially what's happened here. Crytek has picked up development of the game, which is a pretty big deal because Crytek, as everyone knows, creates a lot of the best engines in the industry at this point. In fact, they probably have the best engine in the industry at this point. How do you guys feel about this? Do you think Homefront, because so many people were burned by the first game, that there's even an opportunity for this game to succeed?
Yeah, there's an opportunity, but I mean,
do you think it's possible to message to not people like us or the people who are watching the show,
but Joe Public that like there's a new developer?
Right.
No fucking way.
Yeah,
no one
they don't
fucking
get
cares.
that. They don't get that message.
People don't even care about publishers, really. I mean, people, they try to build up, like, God, what was it, like Fighter's Edge with like old Capcom games and stuff like that, or like Uplay.
Hey, that was
like
cool. Shut up.
Ubisoft.
I almost got a mountain bike.
Oh, really?
200 points.
I was gonna get a pleather jacket. I
think I ended up getting a patch.
Yeah.
But I think maybe they're just hoping like the word of mouth is still a really powerful thing, and if you can get a friend to buy a multiplayer game, that's the best thing you can do. And if you have these guys making it, hopefully it's going to be something.
Well,
something
if
special.
they show it and it looks better, people won't be like, "Oh, but what about before? Oh, is it a new developer?"
You really don't think
looks
so?
Pretty good.
You don't think the one thing that the public is going to remember is, oh, I got burned on that game?
People love the multiplayer.
It was not
multiplayer
terrible.
was good.
Yeah, it was not.
The single player campaign was bullshit.
Yeah.
That's often the case.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, and they hired the dude who wrote Red Dawn, and his fucking script was atrocious. Sorry,
yeah.
But like this Hollywood pairing doesn't always work.
Maybe.
I mean, you got a better Invade America experience in Modern Warfare 2 with the Burger Town level,
right?
Like
which
the
is
entirety of this game.
Which is kind of what I was getting to. It's like, because so many people were burned on this, do you think that the multiplayer is so derivative and it's been done by other games? And probably
what's funny is that the drones,
they
do.
Their drone stuff is now being taken from this game, and their Chaos's previous game, Fuel of War, and is actually now being put into Modern Warfare 3. So I mean, that's just how. This is like, come on, first-person shooters. This is an industry of bottom feeding. People are just excreting stuff, and other people are gobbling it up and excreting it again. And the recipe is just this big shitty recipe of making things that are mindlessly fun to play, but still fun to play.
But the problem is the bottom feeders aren't necessarily generating revenue and selling.
But this one did.
That's the one exception, though, which is why we're even talking about it in the first place, because if it hadn't sold as well as it had for being such a poor game, we wouldn't even be mentioning this right now.
But I mean, the same thing with like Medal of Honor. Medal of Honor didn't blow away like sales expectations, but it still sold a ton, relatively speaking to most games. Maybe not for its advertising budget, but these military shooter games are, they are the cat's meow and the cat's pajamas at the same time.
And the cat's ass.
And they're also turning into a dime a dozen. And so I
Yeah.
wonder when the fatigue does kick in. Could it be
Home
right around the
tech-
time Homefront 2 comes out?
Homefront at least has the angle of that. It's like it's not just straight. You're in the military. At least here, you're like you're the kind of the renegade thing. It's a small discretion from the rest of the schlop out there, but it was at least
Excretions.
something.
It just
Get
goes
that
to
poop theme going.
yeah, it just goes to show that if something remotely sells, people will cling on to it and hope that the next one will do better.
Dingleberries.
I'd rather just have a new game, to be honest.
They're
Homefront, the
clinging on.
original, wasn't that
Terrible.
appealing to me.
I'd agree
So,
with you 100%.
I would rather have a new game.
I agree. All right, the next big story, and this isn't just related to games, it's kind of related to just technology in general. And it'll
Kind of related to games now.
Well, it will have an impact
game
on games on down the
rentals.
road. So this week, a big announcement was made by Netflix that they are essentially splitting their company in two. Now, the new company is called Quickster. That is going to handle all... I know, catchy, right?
Did you hear about the Twitter thing?
Actually, Quickster sounds like a 2600 game or something. He plays Quickster. An
They forgot
octopus-like
to register
little
the
dude.
Quickster Twitter handle, and it was like some like pot smoker in Oregon. It was like his like icon was like Elmo smoking a joint on Sesame Street or something.
That little
So
dude
essentially what
got
they've done
so
is
high.
they've split the company. Quickster is now the old Netflix, which is delivering the DVDs and Blu-rays in hard form to your door through the mail. And now Netflix streaming is actually just called Netflix. Now,
Which
one
was
thing,
what they wanted to do all along.
right? The actual founder of the company
They wanted
was
to
really
be
smart.
stupid all along.
A lot of people probably wondered right out of the gate, why is it called Netflix? Well, that's because the plan from the beginning was to make this a streaming service, and they realized that wasn't going to fly right out of the gate. They needed broadband penetration, blah, blah, blah. So now that it's
Real
here,
Video wasn't gonna do it.
yeah.
Real media player.
Does that even exist anymore, Real Media Player?
I think so.
That and Netscape Navigator.
Update your plugins.
Mosaic.
So anyway, obviously this is a big deal. All the Netflix customers are up in arms. I'm honestly probably gonna cancel the Netflix part and just keep the Quickster part of their company, which is probably ironic. He probably hopes that everybody just transfers over to the streaming part of it. And then what happens when they put the inevitable bandwidth caps on ISPs, which we're gonna fight it as long as we can, but I pretty much can guarantee.
You think this is Canada?
I just can't
Rest of the
see
world? Question mark.
us paying $45 a month for unlimited internet for 5 years from now, so to speak. I don't think it's coming soon, but I think eventually we're going to get to a place where that's going to happen. So what are the implications on the game industry with this big decision?
You can rent games.
What do you mean? Well, you have the streaming services on Netflix, PS3, and Xbox. I'm assuming that's going to carry on
Yeah, that'll
as
keep
is.
going.
I mean, the other story behind this is that they also lost Stars, where how they were getting tons of their movies.
And honestly,
HBO
probably
Yeah,
the
I think
only
a little while.
good
Yeah, they came out a
movies.
little while before. Though,
Didn't
that
they
could
also lose
rename
HBO?
Stars.
they never had HBO.
Yeah,
Okay.
HBO has never been on Netflix.
Well, they have some really old titles that fall out of. I mean, this
Like
is getting
Fraggle
really,
Rock.
Yeah, no, they have like the Larry Sanders
Sanders
show,
Show,
Gary
yeah.
Shandling show.
The stuff that nobody
really,
wants to
really
watch.
old stuff. But no, I mean, HBO is really protective of their
jerk
stuff,
off.
and they're just trying to keep it all on HBO Go.
Yeah.
So,
But how does this tie into like the whole Redbox thing? Because isn't Redbox now doing games and you can rent them for $2 a day and
Is that widely distributed yet? I thought
not
they're still
yet?
testing.
No, I
yeah,
think they
in
just
certain
like
markets.
I think they're doing it in test markets right now or whatever.
Yeah.
So, and what impact does this have on something like GameFly, if any?
I mean, it's interesting, right? Because you're seeing all kinds of different distribution models now. Steam has been around for a while. Now we're seeing this Quickster stuff, and with Redbox around, on live, still out there. So, I don't know. It's interesting. If anything, it'll just create more competition in the market. Now we'll have to pick between Quickster or
piracy.
GameFly or
Well, it makes you wonder too if GameFly is currently working on like a streaming service versus
Yeah.
basically replicating the
They-
Netflix model. Are they going to split their model?
Well, isn't that on
They'd
live?
have to at this point, right?
right?
Because-
But On Live is not a part of GameFly, so maybe GameFly acquires On Live or whatever, and they become one company. Do they leave it separate?
But then GameStop is doing their own on live as well. So
right?
I mean,
it's really
that's-
starting to get muddy. It's probably the best way to describe it. I mean,
yeah.
and it makes you wonder how long are we going to be able to go buy hard discs? Is it coming faster than we think?
Then there's Origin too from EA.
well, do you still have your PSP Go?
I do.
Muddy.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah, pretty worthless at this point.
yeah.
Collector's item.
I don't
it
know.
looks pretty.
I guess as a consumer, it's hard because more and more like the way we buy
Hello,
and
consumer.
acquire games is becoming decentralized.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have to pick and choose our services more, which is kind of a drag.
And then it makes you wonder too if that keeps any one service from gaining critical mass, and then maybe they all fail. If there's not one that everybody gets behind. GameFly obviously was a de facto standard for the home delivery service as far as rentals are concerned. There wasn't really a competitor there. I think Blockbuster tried it for a little while maybe. Don't quote me on that. But here you have so many competitors, you wonder if any one of them will ever become strong enough to become sort of the industry leader and become viable as a business. So it'd be interesting to see how that all plays out on down the road. How do you guys feel off topic about the Netflix thing?
I think Netflix is stupid. I don't know why they did it. They should have just, everyone knew the name Netflix and they knew what it did. So I guess they want to. Maybe they want to sell it off. Maybe they want to sell off their whatever business or just corporate bullshit that doesn't apply to me, and I don't give a fuck about it. I'm actually recently I canceled the disc part for a while because you can. The good thing about Netflix is you can turn it on or off whenever you want. You're like, oh, okay, I'll opt back into this, or oh, okay, give me one more disc or whatever, but.
Why did you turn off the hard copy versus the streaming?
No, wait. I turned off the streaming. Sorry.
Yeah.
I just said the wrong thing.
That seems to be the most common response to this is people are turning off the streaming portion.
Because there's only 7 good movies to stream.
There's a lot of free
There's a lot of
videos
good.
to stream.
There's a lot of shit you can stream, and I've done that.
There are other ways to get streaming content.
Right. The internet right now, every TV network has its own full episode. Spike.com does it. It's like, you have to do a little more legwork versus having a centralized site. You have Hulu, obviously, which kind of aggregates everything together. But it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out and which service ultimately rises to the top. And the final big news story from the week is that Sony essentially changed the end user licensing agreement for PlayStation Network this week. If you go in and you read the fine print, in fact, I think there was a whole episode of South Park based around the EULA of iTunes, where you're just like clicking accept without actually reading what's happening. If you actually read the fine print in the new agreement from Sony, essentially they've covered their asses in case something else happens to PlayStation Network. So they've cut people off from filing class action lawsuits. I believe they've cut their partners off from suing them over loss of services. How do you guys feel about this? A big deal or not?
I like playing my free games they gave me. I'm bought off.
I didn't really get any.
I played Infamous for like an hour and a half.
Only an hour and a half?
I don't know. I have a feeling that, you can put anything you want in these agreements, and there's always wiggle room.
Yeah, it's like calling not it, No one really cares. Not it.
But, legalese, people have to do what they have to do, and you have to do things for stockholders and other bullshit things like that makes the world horrible.
But as someone maybe who only owns a PS3 and really relies on PSN, do you think that this is... do you think they might perceive it as a scapegoat? And Sony's saying, well, we have a feeling that something like this might happen again, so if it does... I guess the better way to ask it is why would they include this if they weren't fearful of the same thing happening again? It's not like Microsoft changed its licensing agreement after all the stuff went down with PSN. It's not like Xbox Live suddenly changed its terms of service.
I think it's just lawyers being lawyers. Honestly,
like
that's how
right?
lawyers act. They're nuts. They respond to laws. They respond to history. They've done more security work. Will it happen again? I honestly can't say, but I'm sure they are more secure than they were before.
Do you think it changes how Sony responds to something like this if it happens again? You
no,
because they don't have the sense of urgency.
They still want to save face. This reads to me as just like pure lawyers doing their job, and then people who don't understand the law being like, that sounds like something we have to do. Go do it. I think it's a lot of words.
Okay, so last week we talked about Tokyo Game Show, but none of the people who talked about it were actually there. We talked about the press conferences, the Vita, the 3DS, Zelda, but the rest of the crew is finally back from Japan, still looking a little bleary-eyed, I might add, but they're here to talk about the rest of the show. Already heard from Ryan. Miguel is here to talk about TGS.
Hey, what's up?
Patrick's here as well.
Howdy.
And the ever-insightful Justin Spear is here to share his knowledge of the Tokyo Game Show.
Hello.
We're some jet lag motherfuckers.
Yeah, you guys are looking a little scruffy, but all things considered, I think that's okay. So, from my perspective, being back here, watching the show go down, helping you guys aggregate media, reaching out to publishers, blah, 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 it seemed like a pretty mellow show. Now, is that just my perception, or is that reality?
It wasn't mellow in that, we were...
You guys still had to work every day, all day, running around, right?
Yeah. I mean...
So it didn't change your workload.
When you're there, you're up and at it the whole time, but if mellow insofar as there wasn't shit there, then yeah, that is true.
Yeah, you guys had to do
That's
some
one way to
serious
put it.
milking, right? You guys really worked everything that was there. We got some good stuff for Battlefield 3.
Trying to milk. There are a lot of people that don't want you to milk.
Yeah.
You're trying to milk them.
Yeah,
Please
Japan
stop
is a
milking.
lactose intolerant nation.
Please stop milking. Thank you.
Well, the irony is that a lot of the stuff, we shot some stage shows. It turned out that the stage shows were kind of the biggest deal from the show this year.
And not. Patrick, what was that? What did we sit through? The 90 hours of Kojima.
So
revealing placards of
Yeah,
Japanese text. Yeah.
Kojima had held about 2 or 3 stage presentations at the Konami booth, and they basically turned out to be nothing.
We never showed any footage of any of the games, right?
No, he was basically going through an extended history of all his games with little to no footage of what's coming up, especially Rising.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but Metal Gear Solid Rising's not canceled. That was the big news.
I guess that is the big news. You're right.
Not canceled, and Raiden's wearing a hard hat or something. I don't know. No, okay.
I think that indicates he's hard at work.
Yeah, exactly.
Cyber Ninja. So I was tipped off that there was a Battlefield 3 presentation, and went there, and it involved 2 guys from DICE being like, we have some trailers that we already released that we want to show you. And we have a thing called the Frostbite
Japan doesn't
engine.
have the internet.
They did say that the game would literally blow you away. So I was expecting like giant fans to descend from the ceiling and just start
blowing their hair back.
Yeah, but that did not happen.
Those Americans, so literal.
I stuck around on the Sega stage for some other things, where like the binary domain thing, where basically they had like a camera guy on like a Steadicam like walk into the booth and be like, "This is binary domain. Isn't this cool?" And no one's even playing it or anything, and then it goes back and do the same thing for PSO2. So there was a lot of gambles. I think Justin went to the ultimate event though.
The boat?
The boat.
The Vita boat.
Yeah, it was a Vita boat. There were some Vitas on that boat, but maybe not enough.
Is that the problem? There
Not
weren't
enough
enough units for everyone to play?
Yeah.
Well, basically, it was a huge debacle just getting to the event, right?
So basically, Sony was like, okay, you guys all flew out to Japan to go to Tokyo Game Show. Now why don't we take you 30 miles away and put you on a boat so you can see some Vita games? But then it took, instead of being, it was 30 minutes away, but the buses got lost.
Well, we sat for 30 minutes before getting in the bus, and then the buses, I think, drove past where they were supposed to. One of the buses did like a 14-point turn, and ours did like a 3-point turn, but then thought better of it and just went straight and then turned around. The other guys are waiting at vans, which we eventually arrived at. Then we got in vans, and we took a short 10-minute drive, and then we got to a boat. We got in a boat, a lot of time devoted to eating and drinking, and like a tiny amount of time to possibly see Vita games.
And filming a Vita screen on a rocky boat.
Yeah, filming.
We tried it.
Yeah, we tried it. Wasn't ideal. Some of the games like wouldn't even transfer off the dev kits, like Resistance and Marvel versus Ultimate Marvel.
Wasn't
3
it that there
was not able to transfer over? So
yeah, wasn't
there were a lot of
were
people on the boat. There were like
6
60
units?
people and maybe 5 units. So
what was the point of the boat? Was there a new game that they unveiled that takes place on a boat, that's about a boat, that's called boat?
I guess the point is it's Japan, and it's like, that's what the nobility back in the day, hundreds of years ago, would get on a boat and chill out. So we did that, and that part worked, but the Vita part, not so much.
Do you feel nobler?
They didn't have Vitas then.
But I mean, this is kind of the show in a nutshell. Just lots of miscommunication. I mean, it sounds like we're complaining. There's still some cool stuff on the floor, but to be really honest, man, like even the show floor was really reduced. There was about 7 major publishers.
There's maybe extenuating circumstances.
I mean, a lot of this has to probably do with the earthquake, and as I heard, as you said last week, there was an earthquake while we were there.
I didn't notice it.
Yeah.
2, 6.5 or higher.
Yeah, but the first one, we were only like 100 miles away from the epicenter.
And that was a 4 or something, I think, right?
They told me it was a 6.
Oh, really?
But all those things get changed like every day. I don't know.
Earthquakes. Over it.
But I guess game of the show is Dragon's Dogma, guys.
Well, that's
pretty cool.
That's one of the 2 games I was able to play, I guess.
Well, actually, let's talk about it. Ryan, what was your favorite game from Tokyo?
Oh, I didn't see a damn thing.
You didn't see any games?
No. I stood in line to play Rage with Patrick, and they said we could shoot it. And then we got in
Rage.
there,
And
and then we were set
no.
up, and then they're like, nope.
Well, I played it. I played the whole demo thing, all of the demos.
Was it the same thing as you
I
played
got
as
first
PAX,
place
though?
in the race, and I shot lots of people in the face. No, at PAX. At PAX, I played from the beginning of the game, which was also an option here, but then they also had little scenarios, which included the racing and, like a game show style mutant battle, go through rooms kind of, I think it's called Bash TV rather than Smash TV.
But it's essentially the same
Not
thing,
a lot of
right?
bashing, mostly shooting.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I played that. It's okay. I mean, the game honestly doesn't excite me all that much.
Really? Even the campaign doesn't excite you much?
It's cool, but I mean, it's also everything is expected to me.
Well,
you know?
I
feel
edited
like
your gameplay, and I don't know if they just had the AI down, but the AI looked atrocious.
Really?
Yeah. So
Wow.
maybe they were just, but we've seen that before. Like, do you remember when Halo 3 was at
Right.
TGS and they had it set on like very easy?
Yeah.
So I don't
I
know.
don't think it was very easy. I still died a couple of times, but
Yeah, they do
Anyway.
tend to nerf games for TGS because a lot of the Japanese players either get sick from playing first-person games or they just aren't all that skilled at them. So it actually makes sense.
I mean, like, I didn't see anything firsthand, but I saw a lot of the footage that came in. I know, Patrick, you went over to Arc Systems.
I went all over the place.
Persona 4
Yeah.
looked,
All over.
Persona 4 fighting looked pretty interesting.
That looked really cool. Besides that, I was basically staffing the camera this time around, so I was running around the show floor picking up what quick gameplays I could. I was turned away, unfortunately, at most of them, the Japanese side of the industry being as they are. But
Big Arm X.
Exactly, the Arm X. It's a universal sign of no.
Get the fuck out.
But basically, there were a bunch of cool games. Like, no awesome new announcements, unfortunately, but very cool updates on things that were already known.
What happened with Devil's Third? Wasn't that supposed to be shown?
Itagaki was there, and he's like, "Yeah, we're not showing
He's
it."
in Saints Row
We talked
now,
to him.
though.
What?
Yeah, we talked to
Itagaki's
him.
in Saints Row.
Oh,
he-
because he works for THQ.
Is he a
now.
boss?
I think they just
Or
made a
playable
custom
character?
character of him,
Uh,
and then they showed off some new stuff, which I guess we could kind of shoot, but not really. But we have shot, so maybe that. Look for the
B-roll.
interview.
Well, the
Yeah,
odd
check
thing
out the
about
interview, I guess.
Tokyo Game Show is that they stop you from shooting everything, and then it all ends up on YouTube anyway. For instance, we had the Devil May Cry demo up on the site. They made us take it down a couple days later, but it's up on YouTube. So,
Yeah, officially by Capcom.
right. So I don't know if they just want views to go to their YouTube channel or what the deal is, but so you guys did get to see the DMC demo now because it was taken down. What were your impressions of it? A lot of people who are watching or listening to the show probably didn't get to see it before we had to remove it. What were your impressions?
That game can never win.
Yeah.
With you, it can never win, or you mean?
I
just
think
in
with
general?
everyone, it can
Yeah.
never win. I think what they're doing is they're kind of doing their best to imitate the past games, and they don't want to stray too far, so they don't have the power to make something totally different and awesome. And the best they can hope for is to be like, well, you guys did pretty good. I don't think they can succeed with fans. I don't think they can sell copies. I think it's like
You really don't
kind
think
of a
it'll
fool's
sell?
errand. I'm sure they'll sell a little bit based on the name, but I mean, I doubt it'll do as good as past DMC games. And I feel like they're kind of hamstrung, and that they have like an impossible task ahead of them. It's too bad. And to me, it just looks like, they're kind of, that's what the combat in Devil May Cry basically looks like, But I mean, I've already done that like 4 times.
Right.
A lot. I mean, I don't think it's gonna be able to do it. I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel bad for them because I like Ninja Theory and I think that they're talented dudes, but I think they're gonna end up being screwed, stuck to this license.
I think the most power they can wield on changing something is stuff like the story and the characters, and
And boy,
already
they-
they're
The
kind
hair-
of,
the hair
losing
color.
on
That
Yeah,
didn't
the-
work out so
Yeah.
well.
The hair
I mean,
color.
I got to see the same demo behind closed doors at Gamescom, so what you see on the site or may have seen already is pretty much the same exact thing. I think it looks pretty. Ninja Theory, is known to make really good-looking games, but the gameplay is it might lack that little something that Devil May Cry fans are looking for. Maybe they can change it before release date, but it's definitely going to be a different game than what you're used to seeing.
Okay, so let's go back to what I mentioned before. Ryan, you obviously didn't get to see any games. You don't have a favorite, but what was your favorite game you saw, Patrick?
You know what? Someone mentioned Dragon's Dogma. I thought that looked really good, but
I'm
besides,
surprised by that
played
because
it.
yeah,
seemed a little clunky to me. At
It
E3.
is, but it's also good.
Yeah.
They definitely improved it a lot. It had a better showing. Here this time they showed off a dungeon fight where you're fighting a chimera, and they showed off a bunch of the party play. I hear a lot of people comparing it to kind of Demon Souls, but I think that would be.
I get that vibe from it though.
Yeah, I think that's mostly superficial though, because you have very tight combat with medieval kind of aesthetic. Yeah, sure, that's Demon Souls, but I think it's much closer to maybe something like Dragon Age with the whole party aspect to it.
But it's also pretty difficult.
Yeah, well, there's not a lot of. The orders
like
are really basic.
Isn't it more like a brawler?
I think it is more an action game.
It is.
It's kind of like
it's more like an action
Dragon
game.
Age to me.
Yeah, it's like King of Dragons, but in 3D and with more.
But
stuff.
I also found it to be pretty tough. Mm-hmm. I mean, I wasn't able to just walk through the demo at E3.
I rolled the shit out of the Chimera boss. We just fucking You should watch the footage. All my dudes running.
Did you have your pawns?
You can do a lot of attacks. There are 2 modifiers. There's like a shield modifier and an attack modifier, and you can do like 2 types of shield bashes, and you can clang your sword against your shield, which I'm not sure what it does, but there are also power attacks that you can kind of.
Do you think because
seems
it's
like you can
maybe
kind of spam
use
it?
the clanging the shield to maybe?
I think it might be
bring
something
the
like
enemies
that.
to you, and then your teammates.
Might be a bit of a
I'm
taunt,
sure it has
yeah.
some effect, or I'm pretty sure it does. But yeah, there are a lot of different power attacks you can do. You can do a back step into a lunge, and you can just do a straight, kind of charging power attack. So yeah, I mean it's really actiony. There's a lot you can do. People have seen grabbing onto the guys, like the Chimera can jump onto the snake tail and start, hacking it at the base, hack off the tail. But I don't know. It's lots of fun. We have some footage, I think. I don't know if we had to take it down. It could have been from the stage presentation of the mage class. And the magic seems to work a lot differently. It's not just, it's not just a reticle and you aim, little flingy magic fireball spells, although you can do that. But there are also some big, like, pillars of ice and earthquakes and stuff, and it looks pretty cool. The magic seems like it'll play a lot differently from the other class, and I don't know, they have some stuff. I think
it's kind of neat because when you're playing a magical class, it kind of transitions from being a melee game to almost like a third-person shooter.
Yeah, you really stand back and kind of control space and put down stuff on the ground. Yeah, I'm not sure how the archer works. I think they have like kind of twin daggers, and you can shoot people from afar. But yeah, that game looks like people should definitely look closely at it. There could be some cool stuff.
So Justin, is it safe to assume that that's your favorite game of the show as well?
I mean, Dragon's Dogma and Rage are the 2 games I actually played.
Obviously,
I saw
you like
some neat
Dragon's
stuff.
Dogma more.
Yeah, Dragon's Dogma was fun. Got to play that a little more.
What neat stuff did you see?
I saw a trailer that looked really awesome for, I think it's Soldier Core of Hell for Vita.
Oh, that is the Pikmin, the gory Pikmin ripoff.
Yeah, it's kind of like heavy metal Pikmin. Yeah, you have a bunch of little dudes you control at once, and you do formations. Unfortunately, I was not able to play that. I don't think it was on the boat anyway, but
that's not the type of game you want to play on a boat.
It's more, I mean, I'm not sure actually how great the actual game would be, but the imagery and vibe of it just, seemed pretty cool. And for a handheld game,
one thing I will say is when I saw that
the kind
game,
of stuff that I would like.
I realized that you can probably never sue another developer or publisher for ripping off your game, because that game literally is just Pikmin with blood.
Well, I didn't see anyone tossing the little dudes at another guy, so it's a little, I think,
a little more.
It's a little more based on like, a little more RTS, like a little more. You turn people into different formations and do different attacks, and Pikmin it looks like you're kind of aiming the whole dudes. Yeah, Pikmin kind of has formations, but I mean, no, not really any. They're not really military guys.
Little King
like,
story.
How about the red guys now? And they're like, okay.
Yeah, Overlord sucks.
But so that looked kind of cool.
Well, if Nintendo won't give us Pikmin, we'll take it, right?
Yeah. Oh, I don't know if probably no one watched Saint Seiya ever, and I'm not really a big fan of it. But I think Namco Bandai, they're making like kind of like a Dynasty Warriors version of that anime that's kind of like, Hokuto no Ken. They did or Fist of the North Star. They did a Dynasty Warriors game which kind of blew, and this one looks a lot faster. And so if anyone's into Dynasty Warriors kind of gameplay and anime licenses, maybe keep an eye out for that one. The trailer was pretty good.
I think Hokuto no Ken was Tecmo Koei.
Huh?
Tecmo Koei.
Yeah, but Namco Bandai is doing the Saint Seiya one, and it's not actually Dynasty Wars. It's just in that vein.
Okay.
So that one was actually a spin-off of the Musou series because they put Musou in the name. But enough about that. But that is really Japanese, and I thought, this is a Japanese game show, and that's a Japanese game in Japan. But Japan's pretty cool.
All right, so it's come to that time where we go around the horn.
Well, I had a question for you.
Sure.
You're a big Ninja Gaiden fan. Did you think anything of the new stuff they showed?
I mean, in all honesty, I'm kind of disappointed in the new Ninja Gaiden. I'm not a big fan of the direction it's going in. I mean, in all honesty, The parts of the last couple Ninja Gaidens I didn't like is when they got away from sort of the Japanese mythology. Because it used to be about dojos and ninjas and clans, and I feel like the last couple games they've kind of gone into the modern world maybe a little too much.
Too much CIA. Well, there was always a CIA with
angle with it, right? I just feel like it's kind of invaded the series a little too much, and I feel like this game has just kind of gone overboard. I haven't seen anything that sort of harkens back to the roots of the clan and all that type of stuff. Maybe it's there, they just haven't shown it yet, but honestly, I'm not all that excited about that game, to be completely truthful with you, which it makes me sad because I do love that franchise. But we'll see. They could prove me wrong, and I'm going to keep an open mind. So let's do letter grades. Ryan, what would you grade Tokyo Game Show?
Counting the extracurricular stuff that happened the day before, barely gives it like a D+.
Wow.
Small show, not many appointments, a lot of old stuff. Not a lot of cool stuff from Japan. A lot of people didn't show up. Didn't really get a bead on the Nintendo stuff. Just read some posts because that was happening while we were flying. But
what was that? I still don't know.
Well, we saw that. We did see the analog stick.
They essentially just showed a megaton of 3DS games, and they showed a bunch of Zelda. That's pretty much what it came down to. And Zelda looks amazing, by the way. Patrick.
At first, I was thinking about a C, but then I realized I didn't get to see Dragon's Crown, which is one of the Japanese games I was looking forward to. So
Ignition wasn't there.
I have to bump it down to a C- just for that.
It's not that bad. Actually, I thought it might be worse. Justin.
I'm going to have to use the fast food ranking chain, so L, M, S, and that's large, medium, and small. And I think used to it was an L. Now it's like an M sizu, but with you look inside and there's not that many fries in there. So
yeah.
Yeah,
this
it's
is
definitely
the Arby's
diminished.
of trade shows.
Huh?
This is like the Arby's of trade shows.
Yeah, I mean it's a little hollow maybe.
Now, would you guys suggest if someone's planning a trip to Tokyo for vacation, is it even worth it for them to try to schedule around Tokyo Game Show at this point?
You could go maybe one public day.
Not on the public day.
You could go for fun, and there was a lot. I think it was easier to move around on the public day.
No, man, it was the busiest it's ever been.
Was it?
There's more people than. Well, I guess it was. Yeah, it was easier to move around because there was less booths, but not enough consoles to play stuff. Really long lines.
Yeah. Well, I mean
that's most trade shows.
Yeah, you would have to really have one thing that you were dead set on getting, or if you just wanted to go and hang out and didn't care and wanted to hang out with people.
Well, hopefully this is a 1 year thing. I think all things considered, we can give them a pass for this year. I'm actually kind of surprised that TGS even happened with the things that have happened there. So hopefully things get better for next year.
The Skeleton King.
So next we're going to talk about Diablo 3. The beta went worldwide yesterday. Yes. We're recording today on a Wednesday, and it went up yesterday on Tuesday. I got my invite, have not had a chance to play it. But Patrick, you have played pretty much the same exact thing.
Yeah, I mean, this is the same kind of smallish beta that I was able to play at Blizzard HQ. And actually, I'd consider a lot of people out there listening right now luckier than me because they had a friends and family program right before the live beta went up. And they were able to play it a good few weeks ahead of everyone yesterday. So they know what to expect. But just to recap, you can play all 5 classes for the first time now. It's the first act of the game, which leads you through the first dungeon and the first boss. A very short and sweet look at the game, but pretty cool nonetheless to see just how it works now.
Now, how short? Because a lot of people are sitting here like, oh, man, I can probably get on that. Should they bother downloading it or...
I mean, yeah, if you opted into the beta, I would definitely check it out. Blizzard said that they were trying their damnedest to get this game out before the end of the year, but I don't see that happening personally.
Well, it is in beta.
Yeah,
it's only September.
It's going to be a bit of a wait, so I'd say, if you can't wait until next January, February, whenever it's going to come out, then definitely give it a shot. It's a really cool look at the game. We haven't played Diablo for years now, so it's just kind of cool to get back into that dungeon crawling feel with these new classes and abilities.
We might have played Torchlight though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, essentially, you can squeeze more out of it by just playing through the different classes as well, right?
Right. Yeah, which is very cool. Normally with betas, you'd only get a small sampling of what you can play as, but here you can play through all 5 classes, level them up to 9 or 10, and just kind of get a general feel of what to expect so you can better prepare yourself for when the game
Can
actually
you expect to
comes out.
click on things?
Yeah, you can click on things.
Miguel,
about
can you expect loot?
You could hear him
maybe.
Bam, bam, bam. That left mouse button was getting a workout yesterday.
Yeah, prepare to buy a new mouse, basically.
But no, it's a really pretty game. You know, for being like this kind of locked isometric view, lots of good the physics and stuff. You know,
well, that kind of helps them, right? The locked isometric view. They know exactly what
we
you're
were
see
we were
at all
arguing
times.
like, do we think this other side of the wall even has a texture on it?
Well, I mean, that's called occlusion culling. Smart developers they actually are not rendering what you don't see. That's how they get their engines to run smoothly. So I would say probably no, there's no texture over there.
Yeah, supposedly it's running on really low end hardware pretty well too.
Yeah,
people are saying they're running on their MacBook Airs and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, once again, Blizzard tech at its finest. Really good scalability there, so you don't need to monster rig to play this game. Looks really pretty. I mean, it's kind of funny because the last game we saw from Blizzard, StarCraft 2, and before that, World of Warcraft, a 7-year-old game.
Yeah.
And you know, it's just cool to see the improvements that they make along the way, but still manage to keep the low-end requirements there.
Is there a class you're more partial to at this point, Patrick?
I played as Sorcerer a lot in Diablo 2, so I'm kind of thinking about doing Wizard this time. But besides that, it's cool how they repurposed the old classes into these kind of new configurations. You've got the Crazy Witch Doctor, which is a take on the Necromancer, and then vice versa with the Demon Hunter, who's kind of like Hunter 2.0, or Ranger rather. So I'm going to get to all of them at one point, but I'm more excited about selling stuff for money. So hopefully I can make a small profit from that. We'll see.
Now, how do people get on the beta?
People get on the beta basically by logging into battle.net, and there's an option in the profile settings that says beta opt-in. And basically you download a small program that'll run a diagnostic of your machine, basically uploading the stats to Blizzard HQ. And once you do that, you'll be basically on a waiting list. And they invite randomly by waves, so just check it every day and see if you've gotten in, and then you could get a good taste of Diablo 3 well before release date.
There you go, folks. Good way to burn some time until all the big Q4 games come out.
Scavengers are ugly, pathetic creatures who survive off of carrion and corpses, too diseased to attract any other carnivores.
So that's it, folks. Episode 178 wrapped up with a nice bow. Welcome back from Japan, you guys. Definitely missed you folks while you were gone. It makes my job pretty much hell when you're all out of the office for that long a period of time. Glad to see you guys made it all back safe, though. For those of you who have not been to GT for a while, we are counting down the top 100 trailers of all time. By the time this show goes up, we should be around the top 10 or heading inside the top 10. And we want to thank you for your support on this. This feature has done amazing for us. The view numbers through the roof, the interaction with you guys through the roof. Really appreciate a lot of the intelligent comments you guys have put in there. We always appreciate intelligent comments, by the way, especially on this show.
Ha 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 ha.
First
No, we really appreciate intelligent comments on this show. So anyway, make sure you check it out over the weekend. We should be to number 1 by the end of the week, next week, to the top 100 trailers. Here comes Q4, guys. I think Gears kind of kicked it all off. I know I'm heading out for a couple big review events over the next couple weeks. I think everybody here is at some point going to be traveling to check out big games. They are coming, folks. Haven't heard any rumblings of any delays for any big games, really, which is good. Looks like they're all going to hit their release dates from what I've been told behind the scenes so far. So let's get ready for Q4. We'll see you there. Invisible Walls is up and out.